I'm Emma Brooks, and I've spent the last 8 years clawing my way up the glass and steel ladder of Southern Star Logistics, Atlanta's biggest name in shipping and supply chains. My dad used to run a small trucking company back when I was a kid pedaling my bike through our dusty Decatur neighborhood, dreaming of the day I'd make him proud. But Southern Star crushed him, undercut his prices, poached his clients, and left him with nothing but a stack of bills and a broken spirit. I joined their ranks not to chase their money, but to understand their game, to find the cracks in their empire. I became their best data strategist, turning numbers into profits, but that morning, everything changed. At IT was early, the kind of morning where the coffee machine hums louder than the office chatter. I was finalizing a dashboard that showed my team had driven 40% of Southern Star's revenue last quarter, numbers even the board couldn't ignore. Then Carter Hensley, the CEO's son, strolled into my office like he was auditioning for a movie about spoiled heirs. His tie was loose, his smirk tighter, and his eyes didn't bother meeting mine. "Emma, you're still here?" he said, leaning against my desk like he owned the air I breathed. "We don't keep dead weight." My stomach twisted, not from fear, but from the insult. Dead weight? I'd spent years proving myself, staying late while Carter partied on yachts, my team's work propping up his family's name. I wanted to scream, to throw the dashboard in his face, but I didn't. I just nodded, slow and deliberate, like I was agreeing to something he'd never understand. "Pack up," he said, tapping my desk like he was counting down my worth. "I need the space for someone with fire." I unplugged my keyboard, slid my notebook into my bag, and left one thing behind: a USB drive labeled Q4 projections. Innocent enough to sit on my desk unnoticed, but it wasn't projections. It held a single file, a contract I'd written years ago during a chaotic merger, buried in fine print only I'd read. Clause 12C, my insurance policy, designed to unravel Carter's world if he ever crossed me. I walked out of Southern Star's gleaming Atlanta tower, the humid Georgia air hitting my face, and felt something ignite, not anger, but purpose. I wasn't fired. I was unleashed. That USB wasn't a whim. It was a weapon I'd forged years ago. Back when I was still naive, thinking hard work would earn me respect at Southern Star, I noticed things. Vendor contracts with padded invoices, payments routed through obscure LLCs, and Carter's name tied to deals that smelled like kickbacks. I was just a mid-level analyst then, but I had access to the merger chaos, a chance to slip in a safeguard. Clause 12C was my masterpiece, tucked into a vendor renegotiation no one bothered to read. It mandated an ethics audit if any employee with over 5 years of service was terminated without cause, with a special twist. Any executive linked to 3 or more questionable vendor deals would face immediate suspension. I'd spent nights memorizing those deals, cross-referencing Carter's signatures with payments to firms that didn't exist on paper. He was sloppy, too cocky to cover his tracks, assuming no one would dare challenge a Hensley. That clause was my detonation switch, and Carter had just flipped it. A few days after my firing, I mailed a single letter to the board's chairwoman, no signature, just one line: activate Clause 12C or face the consequences. I used the company's old letterhead, a subtle nod they'd recognize. I didn't run or hide. I waited, sipping coffee at a midtown diner, watching the first ripples spread. Compliance officers started lingering in elevators, their whispers louder than their footsteps. HR called former colleagues for routine check-ins, but I knew they were digging. Carter stopped showing up to morning briefings, blaming scheduling conflicts. The office grapevine buzzed. Something was wrong, and the Hensleys were scrambling. I felt a quiet thrill, not because I'd won yet, but because I'd made them sweat. My dad's face flashed in my mind, his tired eyes after losing everything to Southern Star. This wasn't just for me. It was for him. The audit hit like a summer storm, sudden, loud, and impossible to ignore. By the end of the week, Southern Star's headquarters was a hive of nervous suits, with compliance teams combing through vendor records. Carter's polished facade cracked. He started dodging meetings, his usual swagger replaced by fidgety glances. I got word from an old coworker that Lillian Hensley, Carter's mother, and the company's true power, flew back from a Palm Beach retreat to take charge. She marched into the boardroom, her heels clicking like a metronome, and demanded answers. I wasn't there, but I could imagine her face, sharp, unyielding, a southern queen refusing to let her kingdom crumble. I wasn't idle either. I'd backed up Clause 12 CS evidence on a secure server, encrypted and time-locked, ready to release if anyone tried to bury it. That's when the first signs of retaliation came. A late-night text from a former teammate warned me my old office had been tossed, drawers emptied, files scattered. The security cameras conveniently glitched that night, but I'd left a marker, a tiny blue dot on my desk's underside. It was gone. They were hunting for the original contract, desperate to erase my move. Too bad I'd made copies, digital, physical, untouchable. I sat on my couch, staring at the Atlanta skyline, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and defiance. Every move they made proved I'd hit a nerve. Lillian wasn't just protecting Carter. She was protecting the Hensley name, the legacy she'd built after her husband's death. But I wasn't the naive girl who'd joined Southern Star years ago. I'd learned their game, and I was playing to win. My phone buzzed. A burner number, a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Tessa, my sister. You're either crazy or brilliant," she said. "Which is it, Emma?" Tessa's voice was a lifeline, pulling me back to a time before we'd drifted apart. We hadn't spoken since I missed her wedding, too buried in Southern Star work to show up. She'd never forgiven me, but she hated the Hensleys more. Our dad's downfall was her wound too. She'd watched him sell his life's work for pennies, humiliated by Southern Star's lawyers. "I need your help," I told her, explaining Clause 12C and the audit. She didn't hesitate. "Send me everything," she said, her New York accent sharp with purpose. Tessa was a financial analyst, the kind who could smell fraud in a balance sheet from a mile away. She dug into Southern Star's IPO filings and found the Real bomb. Lillian was funneling shares through a Delaware shell company, tied to a Luxembourg entity under her maiden name. It wasn't just greed. It was a plan to cash out before the audit exposed her. The IPO was her escape hatch, a way to whitewash the Hensley name and secure her wealth. Tessa's voice dropped low. "She's hosting a gala next week, invite only, to lock in investors. That's your shot." I felt my pulse race. Crashing a gala in Atlanta's elite circles wasn't just bold, it was suicidal. But I'd come too far to stop. Tessa sent me a forged invite under the name Sarah Vaughn, a low-profile fund manager with a taste for luxury and no paper trail. I spent the week preparing, my apartment a war room of documents and backups. Lillian's fixer, Nathan Cole, was circling too. A coworker spotted him outside my gym, his charcoal coat a dead giveaway. He wasn't subtle, and neither was the message. They wanted me scared. Instead, I felt alive, every nerve humming with the fight I'd been waiting to wage. The gala was held at a Buckhead mansion, all chandeliers and old money, the kind of place where Atlanta's elite sipped champagne and pretended their wealth was clean. I stepped out of a rented sedan, my black dress hugging my frame, a fake gold name tag reading Sarah Vaughn pinned to my waist. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm, practiced. The doorman barely glanced at my invite. Tessa's contact had come through. Inside, the air smelled of lavender and ambition, voices murmuring about stock options and beach houses. Lillian stood by a marble bar, her silver gown catching the light, flanked by investors hanging on her every word. She hadn't seen me yet. I moved through the crowd, past hedge fund bros debating crypto, toward a side hall marked private. Tessa had slipped me an RFID chip, cloned from a caterer's badge. The server room was behind a locked door, its hum calling to me like a beacon. I peeled the chip from my sleeve, swiped it, and slipped inside. The room was cool, lined with blinking servers. I plugged in my USB, labeled Investor Update, and uploaded the file, bank transfers, shell company records, Lillian's signatures on deals that screamed fraud. The system was syncing a live presentation across the gala screens. I chose Emergency Broadcast and hit send. A chime rang out, and every screen flickered to life with Lillian's emails, her Luxembourg accounts laid bare. Gasps erupted. A glass shattered. I stepped back into the crowd as Lillian's face twisted, her eyes finding mine. You, she spat, voice low and venomous. I smiled. I told you I'd bring proof. An SEC badge flashed in the crowd, and a man's voice cut through. Mrs. Hensley, we need to verify these. My chest swelled, not with pride, but with the weight of what I'd done. I thought the gala was the end, but Carter had other plans. As the crowd buzzed with panic, he sauntered toward me, a glass of bourbon in hand, his smile too sharp for the chaos around us. Well played, Emma, he said, voice low, like we were sharing a secret. You knew about Clause 12C, didn't you? I froze. He leaned closer. I saw it coming. Dad warned me you were clever, but I let you play your hand. Now here's mine, join me. EVP, big office, bigger budget. Help me clean this up, and we'll bury Mom together. His words hit like a slap. He wasn't crumbling, he was pivoting, using my move to oust Lillian and take the throne. My stomach churned with disgust, but also fear. He wasn't just arrogant. He was dangerous, rewriting the story to make himself the hero. I don't work for snakes, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. His smile flickered. You'll regret that, he whispered. I'm the future. I stepped back, my mind racing. He wasn't offering a job, he was offering a cage. And I wasn't done fighting. I left the gala, my heels clicking on Buckhead's quiet streets, but the war wasn't over. Tessa called the next morning, her voice urgent. There's more, Emma. A third archive, one you didn't tell me about. She was right. I'd hidden it even from her, buried in a server under a fake name. It wasn't about the IPO. It was about Southern Star's dirty foundation, donations to Shell charities, bribes to Georgia politicians, deals that rigged tax laws in their favor. My dad's company was collateral damage in their game, and I'd recorded it all years ago, back when I still believed in playing fair. I flew to Savannah, where I'd stashed the evidence in a locker under my mom's maiden name. The folder was thin but heavy, printouts, audio of Lillian promising favors at a steakhouse dinner, a senator's name dropped like a casual threat. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the release button. This wasn't just revenge, it was a reckoning. If I dropped this, Southern Star would burn, and the Hensleys with it. But Carter's words echoed, his offer, his threat. I thought of my dad, his calloused hands folding away his dreams. I tapped sync complete. The fallout was quiet at first, like the hush before a hurricane. By morning, news outlets were buzzing. Southern Star's IPO was frozen, and the SEC was circling. Carter was suspended, caught on a leaked video ranting about fixing the audit. Lillian issued a statement, claiming she was stepping back for personal reasons, but the internet wasn't buying it. Her name was tied to a Luxembourg firm, and the paper trail was undeniable. I watched it unfold from a Savannah diner, my coffee cold, my heart heavy with something I couldn't name, relief, maybe, or the weight of ending a war. Southern Star didn't collapse overnight, but it cracked. The IPO was dead, half the board resigned, and the Hensley name became a business school case study in hubris. Carter vanished from the headlines, his social media silent except for a lawyer's boilerplate statement. Lillian retreated to her Savannah estate, her legacy a cautionary tale whispered over martinis. I didn't celebrate. I bought a small house in rural Georgia, a fixer-upper with creaky floors and a view of the Chattahoochee River. I painted the mailbox yellow, planted lavender like my mom used to, and let the quiet sink in. Tessa visited sometimes, bringing Atlanta gossip and takeout. She called it checking on the warrior. I called it family, something we were rebuilding one coffee at a time. One evening, a letter arrived, no signature, just a line. You finished what I couldn't. It was from a former colleague who'd quit after the audit, someone who'd seen the Hensleys game up close. I tucked it away, next to a voicemail I'd saved, Lillian's voice, years ago, laughing about handling my dad's company. I didn't need to play it anymore, but I kept it, a reminder of why I fought. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, battles, and a victory that feels more like survival. If my fight stirred something in you, hit that subscribe button and join us. Every story we tell is a spark, proof that the underdog can rewrite the game. Keep fighting your truth, and I'll see you in the next one.